of care that they rely on. Let me go on the record as saying this very clearly. This crisis is not just about toxic drugs. It is about toxic policies. It is about systems built on control and not care. Drug laws in our country were never rooted in science. They were rooted in colonialism and racism, designed to marginalize and stigmatize. These laws continue to disproportionately harm Indigenous community members who already carry generations of systemic violence that we as uninvited settlers have imposed on them. This drug crisis is not separate from that history. The villainization of harm reduction and the criminalization of poverty is a continuation of these harmful policies. I am tired. I'm exhausted of seeing the concepts of harm reduction and treatment pitted against one another, as if choosing one means rejecting the other. These both exist within the same continuum of care, and they both must continue to exist. Harm reduction is a compassionate, evidence-based approach. It recognizes drug use as a part of our communities, whether people accept that or not. It's a concept that dares to separate the act of using a substance from the harm that it can cause. It's a concept grounded in the belief that everybody, regardless of where you are in your journey, is deserving of care, dignity, and respect. Harm reduction is about keeping people alive, and saving lives is not controversial. I have witnessed firsthand how harm reduction can be the very thing that brings my patients into the healthcare system. When you create a space for people where they are accepted instead of shamed, they begin to build trust. They begin to build relationships. And from that, sometimes they can begin to heal. But in every domain that I work, from street outreach to admitting patients to my hospital, I see a healthcare system that is entirely reactive. We are barely able to put out the fires that exist, much less prevent them. We wait for crises, and then we scramble to respond. As physicians, we know that the social determinants of health, housing, universal basic income, safety, connection, these are the things that are the biggest predictors of health outcomes. Substance use and addiction are a symptom of the trauma caused by these broken systems. And yet we continue to underinvest in the very things that could change these long term. I am tired, as a physician, of having politicians increasingly control the access that I have to tools to keep my patients safe and alive. I am tired of practicing medicine in a world where evidence-based, life-saving measures can be swiftly removed from a hospital overnight because of one ignorant politician's spiteful TikTok video. And now, more recently, I'm having to hear politicians talk about such short-sighted, naive concepts as so-called involuntary treatment. Let me say this as clearly as I can. You cannot punish people into wellness. Incarceration and stigma are not modalities of care. Forced abstinence strips people of their autonomy. It reduces their tolerance to substances. It increases their risks of fatal overdose. It ignores the root causes of substance use and then puts people right back into the environments that led them to use substances in the first place.
Yes, you said it.
And too often, it is our Indigenous neighbors who are coerced and incarcerated under this guise of care. I am worried. I'm worried that our politicians are too ready to make the same mistakes of our ancestors by attempting to enforce our colonial ideas of wellness onto others in the name of thinking that we know best. I am worried that this will lead to disproportionate removal of the rights of our Indigenous community members and result in further trauma and harm at our hands when we have not yet reconciled for that of our past. I am standing here outside of Legislature today in the hopes that our voices can be heard by the people who have the power to make change. As we mark 9 years of this emergency, we must ask ourselves, and as we go to the voting booths, we must ask ourselves, in this crisis, who has been protected and who has been punished? Who has been given voice and who has been silenced? We need to stop criminalizing pain and start resourcing hope. We need politicians who are willing to think more than 4 years in the future. We need politicians who are willing to plant seeds that will grow into trees in whose shade they may never sit. The solutions to this issue will not come from short-term thinking. They will come from collective, bold, and unapologetic action. To the people who use drugs, my patients, to their families, and to the communities of people who are doing this work without support, I see you, and I agree with you, and I will not stop fighting for a system that values your lives.